in aerospace, and we look forward to gleaning from their decades of knowledge on the subject. Mr. Cook has very generously agreed to give us answers to the many questions that have been raised concerning the President's budget proposal. But it's important for members to understand that Mr. Cook is not the architect of the proposal. I've called this hearing today because we have very serious issues to address: the future of America's human spaceflight program, and the Congress and the President needs to get this one right. The clock is ticking. It is now almost 2 months since the administration's fiscal year 2011 budget request for NASA was submitted to Congress, and there are still too many unanswered questions surrounding it. We are here today because the President's budget has been found deficient by this Congress and by the American people. It proposes drastic changes in the future of NASA with tremendous impact to high-skilled jobs and high-tech manufacturing capabilities. It could leave our country with no human exploration program, no human-rated spacecraft, and little ability to inspire the youth of America. The budget proposed does all this with very few details to support this new direction. This hearing is but the latest in a series that have been held by the full Committee on Science and Technology and also the subcommittee. It is our job and the responsibility to ensure that American taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. We must be certain that existing programs are worthwhile and well managed, and we must be fully informed of the impact of cancellations of programs. Over the past few months, we have held many hearings to address safety concerns for human spaceflight, the competition of international space programs, and the impact of NASA's programs on the skilled aerospace workforce and industrial base. We have also heard from the Government Accountability Office and NASA's Inspector General. And just last month, NASA's Administrator, General Charlie Bolden, testified on the fiscal year 2011 budget proposal. Unfortunately, the NASA Administrator was unable to satisfy many of the members of this subcommittee. Today, we are going to continue to take a closer look at the elements of the proposed plan and try to get additional information to the extent that that information exists. We're also going to examine the impacts and consequences that would flow from its adoption. Some of those impacts are quite profound and quite troubling. Today, we're going to try to review the status of the current Constellation program. We have just passed a significant design milestone, and we will determine whether the intent of Congress expressed in the fiscal year 2010 Appropriations Act is being met. This oversight is the purpose of this subcommittee hearing, and we intend to be thorough. The fact of the matter is that Congress is being asked to support a budget request that proposes the cancellation of the Constellation program. Cancellation of a successful program that has been underway over the past 5 years. Cancellation of a program that has met significant milestones and would keep the United States of America as a world leader in aerospace. We have been asked to support a budget request that will leave this country without a government system to access low Earth orbit and beyond. In canceling this program, we would write off $14 billion in taxpayer money with no apparent plan to make any significant use of the results of that investment. We would make this country dependent on yet-to-be-developed commercial crew services of unknown cost and safety with no government backup system available. We would be very likely to be forced to rely on other nations to access LEO and for the International Space Station for the foreseeable future. We would be left without a concrete plan, destination, timetable for exploration beyond LEO. Additionally, this cancellation would negatively impact the nation's defense industrial base and would eliminate the program that would ease the transition from the space shuttle workforce and help retain key human spaceflight skills and industrial capabilities needed for our future. In place of good explanations and solid rationale for such sweeping and frankly puzzling changes, we have been given a combination of unpersuasive arguments, and we're working on the details responses. For instance, the commercial crew proposal is lacking all of the basic information that a would-be investor would demand before committing their funds to such a project. For example, what is the proposed cost to the government to develop these systems? How much, if any, of the development costs will be shared by the companies? How much will it cost NASA to buy these services? What else will NASA have to provide to make and keep these companies' operations viable? When can we credibly expect these services to be operationally available, and will they meet our expectation of what is safe enough? What recourse will NASA have if the companies fail to meet safety standards, cost, schedule, and performance? And finally, is there any significant non-NASA market for these services? Is it a viable one? And is it one that we should use scarce taxpayer dollars to promote? Congress is being asked right now to invest our money in a commercial crew venture without providing us with reasonable expectations for success. And as part of my efforts to find out whether there was a solid, factual, or analytical basis in last year's Augustine Committee report for the administration's plan, I directed a series of basic questions to the Aerospace Corporation, the organization that was asked to support the Augustine Committee in this review. Aerospace's responses, which I'm entering the record as of today's hearing, make it clear that such a basis is lacking in many important areas. There is not a criticism of, this is simply not a criticism of aerospace. It's a distinguished organization. But it does call into question the depth of analysis that the administration proposals received before it was sent here to Capitol Hill. In today's hearing, we will address the outstanding questions in the proposed budget regarding human exploration. We ask for clear, fact-based answers. The American people deserve no less. And as a final note, I'd like to share something that I received in the mail recently. I hold in my hand the picture that was sent to me by a 7-year-old boy. He wrote here, his name's Noah, and he's 7. And in it, he has one of these incredible spacecraft that he's imagined, and it looks like it's about to land on another celestial body. And on it, he writes, "We love space." When Noah is grown and considering a career in the area of space, will or will not NASA be that shining light that inspires the youth of America to actually think about the future and the dreams? Noah's not alone. This committee has made science and math education a priority for young people. And under the leadership of our chairman, Bart Gordon, we'll be reauthorizing the American Competes legislation that aims to boost our STEM education and workforce in order to keep our country economically competitive. And in hearing after hearing, we're informed that one of the biggest components necessary to get young kids inspired and interested in engineering is inspiration. I believe that members of this subcommittee and full committee believe that NASA has been the greatest source of inspiration for our nation this world has ever seen. And the most troubling aspect of the President's proposal, in my view, and I believe in the view of my colleagues, is the lack for a real solid plan for human exploration. And this is the pinnacle of inspiration. We expect more from the administration and, frankly, from NASA, an organization filled with some of the most brilliant and analytical minds on the planet that have come before us today and are here before us today. We expect more than a vague list of hypothetical destinations. We deserve and demand a comprehensive human exploration program that details where we will go, when we will get there, and how we will get there. Only by first determining the mission can we determine the necessary technologies and the timetable development. It is my firm belief that America should not sit idly by for another 20 years before embarking on an expedition to Mars. I want to see a plan that includes human exploration beyond LEO by the end of this decade, not the following decade. Nothing in this budget gives any indication that that would occur, and I think that's unacceptable. We have the technology. Let's make it happen. Thank you very much, and now I yield to our ranking member.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you very much for hosting this hearing today. I'd like to thank our witnesses for their appearance today. Both of these men bring years of valuable experience and perspectives. And I'd especially like to commend Mr. Cook in particular for his service during what must be, to say the least, an interesting time in the agency's history, especially